Right, 3, 2, 1. Alright, hello Bacaloww. This is going to be the first ever cutting edge podcast here on my channel. How you doing today?
I'm doing perfectly fine. How about you?
Alright, I actually woke up this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So since it's the
Yeah,
first
I.
since this
Oh
is the
wait, sorry about that. Go ahead.
no, that's fine. So since this is the first episode of this, I guess the first thing we should discuss is probably about Black Magic 2 and where the game's headed. You
All
actually
right.
you actually have shared some info on some new class developments and which classes are going to be nerfed or buffed in the future. Could you explain a bit more on those, or?
All right. So I can explain on like my perspective on talking to some people who has deep ties with the development team, and particularly some people who actually works on the ideas and have been improved for these ideas. So I guess we can, yeah, definitely talk about that right now. Is there any like question on which classes you want to talk about first?
Well, some people, and I guess most of the people in the BMC, and especially about what Diamond's been talking about, are the changes that are going to be made to the Curai class. Can you explain those?
Well, Cura class has a lot of things that are really not known yet, to say the least, on its future developments. Um, One thing is for sure the way that stocks work with Curai. It seems like it's going to change. This is my like discussions with Lumpy Craig and a very good pal of mine, and he pretty much hinted towards Kurai having a new like samurai stance architecture of fighting, where it's not going to be absurdly fast like Kurai is right now, but it's going to have a lot of interesting abilities relying on melee with sword stocks. That's the highest extent that I know so far with Kurai. In terms of the little specifics, I don't know too much about that at all. It's still some that hasn't been like really revealed yet by the developers on how the moves are getting reworked fully. That's
And
all I like to share.
I've heard some rumors on the Virtue remake that they're going to add a bit more since it's still going to be a zoner class, but they're going to add a bit more so that it can have actual combos like Avalon does.
Yeah. So essentially, the idea of the developers, from what I've heard from Lumpy Cragen when I was speaking to him, was the idea of range was not really that bad. The problem about it was the execution.
Yeah, trying to
The
implement it. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, yeah, and the way that Avalon and Virtue plays, they don't really play to the degree that the developers wished. They're playing, let's just say, the best Avalon playstyles out there. Normally relies around a high level passive and chip damage, and when you really take that into an effect in how the game progresses, it's kind of anti-competitive and more of running away and learning how to just evade 24/7. It makes the melee style, the combo style of the game, pretty much rot in what it's supposed to stand for.
Yeah, basically just turns it into a completely different game.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the direction that uh, Avalon and Virtue is going to be more melee based, but magic melee based. And it's going to be more in the lines of how we're just going to get rid of a lot of the range and make it more interactive. And that also goes into like other mechanics of the game that's going to be like reworked. And of course, you elaborate that, or we can elaborate on that later. But the main part is range, and it seems like a lot of that's going to be reduced.
And
That's all.
one of the changes that well, I feel like is more important because I actually play the class is basically Assailant's SP3 work because, as I think you mentioned before, how the rework was going to go is that SP3's health regeneration was going to scale on how much damage someone would do to a combo. And I imagine, is this because some people were complaining that, you could just get a cheap 145 damage combo off of JAC and then you could heal for the same amount?
Well, I don't think it's too much of that. Though I do understand how that can annoy other people. The thing is that it makes it really balanced when you're doing an average baseline damage combo, and then you're mixing that with a bit of health steal. When you're doing like a 400 damage combo with Assailant, and you steal 150 HP, it puts you along the lines of a 550 damage offset between the amount of damage you do and the amount of health you gain. Um, no, I don't see that as a problem. The main problem that I would say a lot of people have noticed is combining a 550 to 580 damage combo and mixing that in with a 150 HP steal. That overshadows Revenant's biggest damage combo because essentially you're doing 580 damage. And some people say it's hard to execute, but let's just go down to like a more standardized basis. Let's do 540 to 550 damage combo. Well, you can deal 550 damage and you can steal 150. That puts you at an HP offset with them at 700 damage. That's a lot, a, a big lot. I see why SP3 should get nerfed, but then I also believe that if health steal becomes like very, very less viable, I mean, it's always, a nice thing to have. I believe that Assailant should also get like a slight quality of life improvement on its tools that it used to counter other classes in combat.
And I feel like that this change to SP3 is probably going to change people who are just getting new to the game, and Assailant is the only class they know because it did a tutorial on it. Back when I picked up Assailant last year, when I started playing the game back in, I would say April, I relied on SP3 much more than I do now, and obviously I don't rely on it that much now because I can execute the combos and I can play enough of a good neutral that I don't need to rely on it that much. But yeah, I feel like that's going to affect new players who don't know a lot of tricks, but they know that the health regen can help them in some way.
Yeah. I believe um, assailant should always be kept as this close range martial artist that can reap some form of benefits for at least going in. Because at the end of the day, if you really think about it, a lot of these classes that assailant has to fight can be very daunting on a first hit scenario. And so, if a new player joins the game and they only learn assailant, they can at least be very gratified on having HP steal for at least being a little bit aggressive and pushing in there and not being overrun.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like that because I've went back to the classes and like such as Revenant, Avalon, and I've learned it well enough that I can just execute the basic combos in that. And once I got used to that, having to do lifesteal with Assailant all the time and just ending with that. But because I learned what a lot of the classes can do with Okizim and trying to do brushdown moves, I was able to use resets more and not go for SB3 all the time.
hmm that's very nice. Um, yeah, resets, all this stuff, they're tactics that we keep in our hand in our back pocket to at least try to squeeze out more damage. And you know, I do really like the concept of being able to like catch someone who is a little bit unaware of their situation. But yeah, I believe a little bit of a nerf on health steal can inspire people to be a little bit more open minded and do things out of the box that can take someone off guard and put them into another combo. Uh, and yeah, yeah, I solely believe that. So,
And another change that I don't know if it's actually true or not is the fact that Assailant's launcher is gonna bring back some of its invincibility from back when the launcher was fully invincible. And I feel like that could be pretty helpful against the matchups that are pretty disadvantageous because for things like Revan's GB, which can track rolls of pretty much any class that doesn't have an immediate wake up option, because Assailant can either try and time it with the side dodge, but with the launcher invincibility, they can cancel out that super armor, and it gives them another space in order to do what they want in that situation. But I feel like, yeah, because what most people complained about when Assailant's launcher was most invincible is because they thought it was unfair to the class that didn't have any super armor to avoid it, so they got rid of it. And that was also the case for GB because people didn't like that Assailant had all these moves that could ignore everyone else's moves, so they lowered the super armor on the GB. They also decreased its hitbox, but I'm really glad that they're gonna probably add some invincibility back to the launcher, but I don't know for sure.
well, here's my take on that. I understand why some people would want sea launcher invincibility to be a thing, but then there's also the other aspect of a very like heavy linger that comes with it. So a lot of people knows this at times that whenever you dash over an assailant and let's just say you don't see them really sea launcher that early at all. They do it pretty late. It still tends to hit you and teleport you back into the sea launcher. And it does really well as an anti-air against Curai or any type of class or person who wants to dash over an assailant. To be honest, I don't think Sea Launcher invincibility should be back at all because it's gonna almost make Assailant like Kurai, and Kurai doesn't really have invincibility with Sea Launcher. It just sometimes feel like it does because whenever you use Super Armor with Revenant and you hit a Kurai, in midair while it's also doing Sea Launcher, sometimes your super armor gets hit, but you don't hit them in return. You like fade through each other, and that's one of the big confusing parts. But to elaborate on Assailant, countering a lot of things, you already have the tools. SB5 can easily counter a Revenant guard break reset or any form of move that takes a slow amount of time in order to hit. So you already have the trick of that. And then on top of that, really, if you're able to catch someone in an area where they try to guard break you and you're able to stun them with SB5, you can then do what, a lot of people question, and that is start off with heavy combo into a 550 damage combo and steal 150 HP. Uh, I would say Sea Launcher invincibility would be a little bit too much of a stretch. I think the attention on Assailant should be on little minor improvements towards certain moves that it has. Nothing too drastic that can make it be looked overpowered, but nothing too less that it feels like it's not being loved.
Another, but some people argue that even though they took away the invincibility for Assailant's launcher, people still complain about Citadel's launcher. Mainly because of the super armor it gives and its hitbox can infamously hit behind the player. So lots of people are saying, well, since you removed that, aren't you going to change this? So what do you think about that?
All right, Citadel. Citadel is that type of class that feels like it's attacking and defending at the same time. It feels like it's a very good uh, mitigator of just anyone who wants to go head on against it. In my opinion, Citadel's sea launcher is quite lingery. It really does grab you from like left or right or behind Citadel, and that's one of the main problems is the magnetism that this game offers, and that is obviously through Roblox servers. But in terms of super armor wise, it makes sense for a shield that is striking up in the sky to have a bit of guarding power when doing a move like that. It's very abrasive, though it's not as fast as Assailant's sea launcher. What I would say, though, is when you do a startup on sea launcher, you get that super armor that first millisecond. And what I see people being frustrated mainly on is they have the ability to see the sea launcher of Citadel and block, but the problem is it's a predetermined hit already. It already activated the super armor, and the move already teleports you into it. So it doesn't matter on how hard you look and you see when the move happens and how predictable it can be. Like you feel like you can block it, but at times you can't. So I would say Citadel Sea Launcher should not be so fast on starting up. I believe it should have just a small delay on it. And that's mainly because a lot of Citadels like to rely on using that. And a lot of people knows um, how bad Citadel Sea Launcher has been getting lately, because that's actually one of the most powerful sea launchers out of any other class.
Yeah,
So I would
exactly.
say,
And one of the other things people seem to complain about it is because of how versatile it is. Because Citadel, if it whiffs, can always go into SP6, which has armor and can deflect projectiles, or it can go into SP2, which also has another bit of armor. Because that's why I see many people matching matchups. They back away when Citadels do Sea Launcher, mainly because they know they can't punish it because Citadel can always just press another button and then you're in another situation where you're going to take damage. And they can
yeah,
also do both of their aerials, which can start off a combo if they're low enough to the ground because of the crystal combinations. They can just go into JAC twice from there, ground dash, and then go into LAC, and then the whole chain starts over. Because another thing that's strong about Citadel's kit is that it also has breakdown, so it has damage, but it also has duelist properties like Assailant has, and that's another strong point. Is that no, it's practically got everything. Well, I guess shit, it's a defense class. I don't know what I'm talking about. But that's what I'm saying. Launcher is just very versatile in general with the whole Citadel kit.
yeah, I would say Citadel is, I would say, 90 to 80% perfect where it's at. I would only advise if they were to ever not really 100% rework Citadel, but like just do minor changes. I would really advise on slowing down a lot of the moves that are heavily dependent, that has a lot of benefits than cons. Because Sea Launcher, if you do Sea Launcher and you miss, and you anticipate that someone's going to try to run up and or jump up and try to hit you, then they'll move on to SB6, and then you get extra damage. You get punished for that. But then again, it's like sea launch Citadel Sea Launcher is the most powerful sea launcher, and a lot of people don't want to approach it regardless. So I would say, yeah, just slow down that startup a bit. So at least a little bit of information can be processed by the other person that Citadel's about to do Sea Launcher. And so then it can be a matter of um, just pure reflexes on just blocking it at a perfect time. Like you don't want to make it too slow, but at the same time you don't want it too fast. And right now it's too fast. So
So
just put it on a very nice medium.
So if I want to switch topics for a second, because I don't think I can go anywhere from there because no other classes are going to get other drastic changes in the near future. Let's gonna bring up Cataclysmic Clash's new 2D fight, which is going to be Burning Abyss.
Cataclysmic Clash,
Uh,
Burning Abyss.
well, what was surprising to me is that 2D fighters on Roblox have been virtually non-existent throughout the website's lifespan, and the ones that are out there are purely experimental. But this one's actually in development, and I've played it myself, and I've played it with I played it with Diamond yesterday. It
Hmm.
gets and it gets a lot of things right, including the use of motion controls that Street Fighter V on the PC does. So as you have WSD as your movement, if you SD and then the heavy punch, that's a motion input. And I like to see that they're implementing that into there because it could create a whole new avenue for gaming development for 2D fighters on Roblox. And I feel like that's a step in the right direction because it could bring in a lot of new players and it can have a lot of new ideas in the future in order to make it more interesting. So, what do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think 2D fighters are very unpopular. I think that it is a genre that hasn't been outright explored much by a lot of talented developers. Like, you obviously look at Black Magic 2 right now, and there's no game that's like this heavily detailed on the fighting aspect.
Yeah, as I said as I say all the time, like if you want a definitive fighting game experience on Roblox, like this is it. This is the game that you need to try.
Yeah. So Cataclysmic Clash, I have played a little bit of the game that is available right now, but I haven't really invested too much into it, strictly because the way that keystroking works on Cataclysmic Clash right now, it was a little bit it was less of a balancing factor, more of just throw out a bunch of moves that can do that has really no good like scaling cap. Like it can do so much damage and you can die out of nowhere. And one of the frustrations that I had with that game was keystroking was not a problem. It was the balancing. The balancing was absolutely like non-existent. So you see a lot of people doing certain moves and whatnot that would just steal so much of your HP and then do a lot of damage in return. You try to block or evade, but then and this is, by the way, what I'm about to state here, it's a occurring trend of Roblox. The problem is with a lot of these fighting games in general is that Roblox's servers aren't prepared for a very perfect concept. Um, Obviously, you know at this rate that there's a lot of games in general that's being developed on Roblox that gets more graphically detailed, more enhanced, very nice models and all this stuff. But one of the main problems is that Roblox themselves have not invested into having a better server system for these games that can rely on a little bit of FPS and then like go into like Street Fighter esque. So one of the main things you come across in Black Magic is, and also Cataclysmic Clash and any other fighting game, is the heavy desync that there is between server information and client information, and that causes a whole avenue of problems because when the community discusses um, these problems as like balancing factor for the game, then you realize that the hitboxes can be very small, but then they can be so scuffed at the same time, right? The server relies on player perspective. So that being said, Roblox themselves on these fighting platforms have not optimized themselves good enough for these fighting platforms to be very reliable in how they work. So I see another reason of why these genres are not being executed properly is because Roblox as a platform is by default flawed for any form of fighting action. And there's a lot of reports that people make on why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why is this so scuffed and whatnot? So to bring it back to Cataclysmic Clash, I see,
More specifically, Cataclysmic Clash Burning Abyss.
yeah, specifically the new game that's coming out right now, as you stated, Cataclysmic Clash Burning Abyss. It has a lot of potential. Any new fighting game always has a lot of potential. It really does.
And it's seeming to throw away the keystrokes for almost true motion inputs on PC keyboards. And they're doing
Hmm.
it the way that Street Fighter V did their PC inputs when they released, because now it's accessible to a whole new player base, and they're not that difficult to pull off.
Yeah. Um, I like that concept that they're going with. That's really, really good. That it seems like it's almost bordering Black Magic 2 territory right now, right? If I'm not mistaken. Um,
Because Black
I
Magic, Black Magic 2, so the skill floor for Black Magic 2 is between, I would say it's kind of resemblant to, well, if you try the 2D lock on, because I've always played this 2D lock on, it's
yeah,
felt more resemblant to Tekken and Rise of the Machines, because for Rise of the Machines, you only press one button in order to do a special, which Black Magic 2 is like. And with Tekken, there's sidestepping, there's backdashing, which Black Magic 2 has implemented that over the years. But also has elements from team fighters like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and DBFZ, in which assault mode exists and air dashes. So in that sense, it's more reliant on those games. But for Cataclysmic Clash Brooding Abyss, it seems to rely on more King of Fighters and Street Fighter elements.
hmm,
It still has the air dashes and the back dashes from the other games, but a lot of the elements that King of Fighters and Street Fighter have been known for are present here, and they've done
yeah,
a good job they've done a good job with the character, which is Brock, the only character they have right now,
yeah,
because he has some moves that are resemblant. His down forward Y and U is one of Soul Bad Guy's moves. I forgot the move name from Guilty Gear. He has a DP, and he has something that looks very close to Avalon's SP2, but I don't know if that's referencing something or not. And also mentioned, the game has a meter system, and it actually has supers that are the double down forward motion that Street Fighter and KOF has, which I feel like is the correct direction, because there's a certain level of skill that you have to pass so that they aren't that spammable, or you actually have to
they
do work in
aren't
order to
too
combo
easy.
into them.
Like they're not like too easy. Like you can still do very almost simplified combos, but it's not like just only pressing one button. It's probably like pressing maybe two or something like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I've never tried to do it, but it feels like that buffering could be there. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
instance, you can jump up and press U, which is the heavy attack, which is the swinging sword. Then you can do double Y, which is light punch, and then you can do the input, which is down forward Y, which is the move from Guilty Gear. So I haven't, I still don't know it. And then you can go into the
Uh,
super, and that's a and that's one of your basic combos into super. So the framework is there, and all you need to do is build upon it.
yeah. That's pretty. That's actually really, really nice to hear. But
but I haven't tried to pull off that specific combo yet. Because even though they've added more features, like there's a training room now, and you can remap the controls.
hmm
But
all
I
right,
still feel like it needs more. Like if people are actually going to want to play it, because in training, what they need to implement as soon as possible is, the option to fight against an AI opponent. Because right now, Black Magic 2 doesn't really have something like that. And I feel like they're going to have a big step ahead if they do that. Because
all right,
in like a traditional versus mode that you would see in any other arcade fighter.
all right. Can I ask you one question? So this game sounds very promising, right? You explained a lot of things that they are going to do, which is very good. But I want to hear a different side of the spectrum. What is one thing that you think that Burning Abyss, Cataclysmic Clash Burning Abyss, might lack on? Like, what do you think that Black Magic 2 has that Cataclysmic Clash Burning Abyss doesn't? And on top of that, what do you think could improve?
I would say the only things that are really making it lackluster right now are the lack of customization options and the range of and the absence of a sort of tutorial or a true moveset list. Because for Black Magic 2, you can go through the tutorial and you can see what all the moves do, and there's a pop-up on the class selection before you choose one which lists all the moves, right?
Yeah.
Which Cataclysm Clash Burning Abyss doesn't have that right now for their one class. So you have to find out those motion inputs on your own. There's not a dedicated source for the moves yet. So yeah, that's something they need to probably think of in the future.
All right. And what about the detail and design about Cataclysmic Clash Burning Abyss? What do you think about it? Is it rivaling Black Magic 2 level, or is
I,
it going
I
to go
don't I
higher?
don't I don't think it really needs to be that graphically advanced, because as long as the gameplay elements are there and it's fun, they don't need to make it as pretty as Black Magic 2. They just need to have, good character models, make sure they look nice, and backgrounds that you can tell what they are. So no, it doesn't have to be as graphically intense as Black Magic 2. It just needs to all work. It all has to smooth together like that.
All right. All right. Um, well, that's nice to hear, right? Cataclysmic Clash Burning Abyss is a new game. Is it like in development phase right now, like
Yeah, it's
alpha,
it's
beta
still it's
testing?
still in development, and only about 4,500 people have played it.
All right. That's something nice to look forward towards in the future. Is there any questions you'd like to ask me?
I guess the only questions that I'd like to ask you right now are uh what are your thoughts on, well, your win in the, I think it was the third cutting edge tournament, against, I believe, was it Dust
It
Crusader
was
that you won that tournament on?
yeah. What do I
Yeah,
think about
I
it? All
yeah,
right.
I like you to give me some more insight on the tournament back then, because we didn't hear a lot from you.
All right. Well, I think the tournament was very fun and challenging. I believe most people try to at least, although losses are a thing, a part of tournaments, and people can get upset. I would say at least most people try to put on a good impression after losing. So I do give them props, because one of the best parts about becoming better is just at least understanding that maybe I lost here and there, but at least I learned something new in order to become better. Because tournaments are usually where most of the high skilled players like to go towards, and if you're at least able to fight in high skilled tournaments, um, that is nice to at least have the opportunity to see what you might not know. Um,
But the thing
on
about
top of that,
oh, sorry, sorry,
yeah.
continue.
Oh, okay. So on top of that, I do have to say the fight between me and Dusk Crusader towards the end was pretty how should I say, a little bit unpredictable at times. Like I knew for a fact that Dusk Crusader, because this is what I do at times. I like to approach someone before the tournament, and I like to see what they normally would rely on. And I have this very nice skill set in my brain where I easily see what they do in the first fight, in the first to probably second fight. And I use that as a skill trait moving into the tournament for knowing what I can knowing what I can do in order to go around them. So towards the end of the tournament, one of the things that some people noticed was that upon me doing SB8 against um, against Dust Crusader, I did guard break instead of blocking or trying to side dash. One of the things that I learned throughout fighting with Dust Crusader is that Kurai has a very nice tendency of being able to do sea launcher upon wake up and really suck anyone up in there before they're even able to side dash or before they're even able to sometimes block. So it's been a task that I had to really adapt towards. So I seen that he likes to rely on doing sea launcher upon waking up from SB8, and I seen he did that to me multiple times before the tournament even began. So I remembered that, and I took a bet that I was going to do guard break instead. And I completely anti-air guard break, incapacitated him, did more damage in return, sped myself up, and then on the far range spacing zoning that we were doing, I was able to squeeze in an SB1 towards the end and pretty much win the last fight. But it was very nice to see what high end Kurai playstyle can do to an extent. Though I would say I definitely seen better, but hey, I at least had a challenge, a very very good challenge. I don't blame anyone that I fight for not knowing what I can do. I love to at least learn something from them and then have them learn something from me in return. And
Yeah,
that's a
that's
part of
something
really the competitive part of the tournament.
that's something I have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, back
So
then,
that's my thoughts on
oh
that.
my back then, dude, I probably had the biggest ego on the planet when I first joined that server. Like,
Yeah.
cause I won't go into it. It's a freakishly long story, but let's move on to why people in main chat and most chat rumors actually want an official Black Magic 2 tournament right now because their argument comes from the fact that the game is still in alpha and that the meta is obviously going to be determined by Rev and Kurai, so right now they don't want a tournament in that environment because it would just be busted, it would be super it wouldn't be intuitive and it really wouldn't swim well with the player base at all.
Yeah, what I have to say about that is this. Um the problem about reworks in general, and when it comes down to this game, is re- reworks take so long, take so much time. There are two new developers that are still training in order to be very, very optimal in class designing and overall modeling how animations work for the player model that's actually fighting. And since Virtue rework has been announced like around 7 months ago, it's still being reworked right now, and it's been a very very long time that you have to wait. The meta of the game was already pronounced when like the three classes after Assailant came out. Avalon, Curai, and Virtue. And the thing is people always say, I want to wait until something better comes out. I understand that mentality, but I just want people to realize this. The development of reworks is abysmally slow right now. I wouldn't even put my money on like having everything done by a year. We're already 7 months in. A year, like finishing up from starting a virtue rework into getting the developers trained up to finish every other rework. It's probably going to be done in like, if I was to give my own guesstimate, I would say around probably 7 months to a year from now, because you know, we have all been promised that the game was always going to take a massive shift to a very different direction that was going to be unearthly, like very, very, very well made. And I
One
do
year
understand.
later.
pretty pretty much. Like I do understand what they mean and what the developers mean. I mean, like, look at Revenant and Citadel. They are so far the most heavily detailed designed classes, but you know how long it took from announcing Revenant and uh, Citadel into actually having it being released. And a third class was supposed to come out. It was Enforcer.
But
Nobody
then they
knows where the
scrapped
hell
that,
Enforcer went.
and
And
then
yeah,
all
they pretty
and
much
then all the
scrapped
months
it.
and then all the months later, Huge Naza left as well, which slowed down things even more.
Yeah, and I do also want to remind people here that back in November, actually, no, back in October, it was known that Osama really wanted the two classes, Citadel and Revenant, to be released. And it was actually really hyped up, saying that Citadel and Revenant would be released on the end of October. I remember it vividly, actually, because the one class I was looking forward towards was Revenant. And
Wonder
what
why.
ended up happening was, I believe during that time, the development progress of Revenant and Citadel was like 4 to 5 months in. So what they wanted to do was release it by October because they believed that they had everything finished. But then they delayed it. For how long? Well, they delayed it into November. Then they said it's not done in November. We're going to move on. Um, and they actually never really stated when they were going to finish it. And then lo and behold, it came out towards the end of January.
Okay, well,
That
in
from late October. Oh, from late October, right, to January. That is like November, December, January. That's like a whole another 3 months of just waiting from when they promised to release it back in late October to where it really got released. So you don't know what might change. That's all I want to say.
in my defense of the developers, they aren't getting paid that much money, and it's more of a side project right now than anything else. And
All right.
that's a lot of that's most of Roblox development for these smaller games that are meant for older players and players who want something more advanced, but they're just not getting thousands of players every day for something like Phantom Forces be, or something like Critical Strike.
All right. But I want to state this, right? So I agree with your statement of these people aren't really getting paid. They're doing a lot of work and whatnot, and they're
Because yeah,
pretty much
because
like
all they can
putting a
do
lot of their side.
because all they can do right now is their jobs and their life. And it's good that people have been taking time off in order to better themselves. And the people who keep getting mad at the developers and getting mad with the game, saying that things have taken too long, because the perfect example of this is when I don't have let me see if I can pull up the video real quick. I'll post a link. I'll just show you the link. It was something that showed up in main chat about 2 years ago that I wasn't here for, which
Hmm.
was it was a video that was like super, yeah. It was KZ plays RB and Samantha Pilgrim. It was some whack video about them, basically just doing some really screwed up e-dating stuff, and talking about how Black Magic 2's development has taken so long, and they just criticize nearly everything, saying that what's Osama doing? And during that time, he was spending time with his family, and Cuello was taking over because Osama was taking a break. He was actually because Osama's in college. He's taking college classes right now, and he's also tried to better himself. He's done a lot of body improvement because he's posted some images. So that's where I feel like a lot of the player base misjudges a lot of the player base misjudges upon, which is these developers have more things going on in their lives and not just this game.
All right, I understand that, but can I like state some really quick? See, my own take on this is a two-party standard. I like to put a lot of critical thinking into this stuff, and the thing is that I noticed was it's the community is doing something very wrong when it comes down to judging the developers way too much than they deserve to be judged. But then there's also the second part of that where it's wishful thinking and putting out times that you're going to do something but then you don't deliver. um, I believe that the developers themselves, they have really good lives and they really shouldn't be focusing on a block game for too long. But there's also the other aspect of that in which you have to make people understand that you're not going to be sitting here and developing at an extremely high pace that other people want as a demand. But the problem about that was instead of them actually letting people know that, hey, look, we're developing this stuff, we're going to do reworks, we're going to do all this stuff, and we're not going to be able to do it that fast. So don't have too much expectations. What they did instead was they decided to be like, all right, we're going to get this out by the end of this month. Be prepared, be excited, and all that stuff. And once the drop date comes, they automatically drop the ball, and then they're like, all right, we're going to push it to a little bit behind the time, and then the ball gets dropped again, and then next thing you know it comes out like 2.5 months later, and then everyone's pissed off because the developers themselves needs to understand their own limitations and make other people understand that limitations instead of giving wishful thinking to everyone and then ultimately disappointing them. So I would say this: the developers, they're very talented, they know what they're doing, but at the same time, the execution of their public statements are poor. They need to understand how to communicate with everyone in a way that won't, make people feel very, very like let down from them. So I would
Dipping their
advise
toes
them,
into the AAA development tool.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I would advise
if
them
we
like
could
not being so bodacious about what they do and be more, critical of how they're approaching the situation by saying, "Hey, we're not going to be able to get this out like anytime soon, probably because we have like a lot of things to work on. So don't expect too much, but we are going to try to get this out. Is that okay?" And then a lot of people could be like, yes, that is perfectly fine. Take your time. You work a lot on this game, and we do play for like pretty much for free.
Yeah, but
So
I'm not gonna make any strong accusations or say that I know a lot about what's going on because I'm not a game developer. Like the only thing I do is run a tournament server for this. So a lot of the stuff I say could be wrong, and I just want to make that clear to everyone's watching that I almost know nothing. Like
I want people to know from my part that like okay, and by the way, I don't want to sound egotistical. I'm sorry. Like I don't mean to be egotistical at all. And I don't want to put anyone under me. That's not my mentality. I believe that everyone has infinite potential in their lives and what they pursue. But for my own point of view, I'm a team leader. I have a actual millionaire mentor who actually trained me in the field of marketing. And right now I'm 19 years old. I'm getting into email marketing and getting into really managing forms of teams. And part of managing a team is also understanding the approach between the relationship of community and the hierarchy. And a lot of the things that I say like I know I don't develop at all. I know I don't script at all. I'm I'm mainly saying this through ways of um just higher ups to community communication. That's pretty much it. I'm not saying that oh they just don't know how to develop. No. This is all about their communication with the community and nothing else. That's the only thing I analyze and what I mainly specialize in. But yeah, that's all I wanted to state.
it's gonna be closing on to the end of the podcast now. So another
All right.
thing so probably just for the last topic, I would say the importance of putting the shirt limit because Roblox right now for its avatar shop and community creations, what they are trying to implement right now is basically you pay a flat fee for the shirts and then you can put them for any price, but because that's what Nick Toic was so furious about because the reason why the shirts are so delayed is because I'm not made of money, so I can't pay for them all myself, and two, the people of Duo Roblox like Nick Toic don't want to spend on the flat fee because that was implemented just recently because they felt like I don't even know the full details in the situation. I just know it was just kind of a scummy move to put that sort of price tag on it when shirts used to just be cheap and accessible to everyone, which you could just post out for free and you can make profit on your
Uh,
own. So, so what do you think of that?
does some of this relate to like creations for the tournament that you host, like the victory shirts and all that? Does it any way, shape, or form relate to that?
Yeah, Nick Toke was complaining about it a lot. So
Uh,
that was just on my mind, and I just decided to bring it up
all right. Um,
because that's
I
why
think
y'all's shirts are so delayed because that rule is implemented there, and I don't have the sort of money to get that stuff out, and
all
or I
right.
just
Can you do me a
or
favor?
yeah.
Can you explain to me the rules once more, and then I'll tell you my part, my take.
I think it's in Nick Toek's DMs. Also, I'm more used to
Does
saying Nick Toek than Echo. Um,
does it relate towards just like more money you have to spend or something like that?
it's a flat fee of 50 Robux per shirt.
Hmm. And that's like shirt creation, right?
I found the image. Hold on, sending it to your DMs right now.
All right.
There, it's up there. Yeah, so what that basically is, that shirts that have 2D designs, which is completely separate from community creations, now earn less money, so now earn less Robux off it, and the 50 Robux flat fee is universal. It doesn't matter what kind of item of clothing you put on there, whether it be pants or shirts. That rule basically now is not going to exist.
Wow. All right. So looking at this, I find it really funny because just think about this for a second. You know how rich Roblox is, right? You know how much money they own,
Oh,
and
oh,
then
Mike fell.
you
Sorry,
really
sorry.
so you know how rich Roblox is, right? You know how much money they own. They're actually the number one site on gaming. I know this because when I was looking at their overall conversion rates and how much money they make, they were number one ranking on similarweb.com for having the most amount of money and viewership gained on their site platform. They were rank one. And I find that funny on how much they restrict the user so much on their ability to make money just because they want more. But at the end of the day, you have to think, what did Roblox ever give back to the community? What did they ever give back? Their development team system is fucked. Excuse my language, but
a,
it's
a nice email,
absolute.
a nice email, and half a Snickers.
Yeah, it's absolutely garbage. Their roadmaps are very lackluster. They have so many developers, yet you can see like companies that are under $100 million a year. They can be working and outputting like 10 times more than Roblox.
But I also
And
feel like Ro- Roblox have kind of autopilots on their popular games that, like, such as Adopt Me and Bloxburg and whatnot, because they can also choose what kind of games are get on store shelves for the figurines, because they sell those now, and they put the gimmick that you could actually get a piece of gear from those toys.
wow.
So even though they're writing off lots of the developers' backs on this situation, and even though there's a partial credit of the toy that comes from that game that they give back to the developers, I feel like in a sense that for everyone else that just makes that just wants to make a quick buck, they're kind of left in the dust.
This is all I have to say about this subject. I believe that Roblox is a complete embarrassment of a company. They
I wouldn't go
leech
that I
off of
wouldn't go that
everyone.
far.
Oh, just hear me out. I believe that Roblox is a complete embarrassment of a company because they leech off of everyone's development work on a outdated platform, Lua, and they don't even bother upgrading their servers. They don't bother upgrading their clients. They don't bother adding in modern forms of scripting that doesn't break your game all the time. I have a lot of developer friends, and they keep telling me the same thing over and over again. The games that they make, they have so much script error. They have very questionable moderation team inside of Roblox. If you haven't heard of that one moderator that actually got paid $500 to give someone a admin panel for $500, got bribed, and that person made 17 alterations to different people's accounts. I believe it was between 7 to 10, somewhere around there, probably 17. But that got swept under the rug really fast. But only thing I want to say is this: Roblox leeches off of everyone. They don't provide the best and high quality of gaming experience that can be more optimized and even faster in power and speed. And yet they have the audacity to milk and squeeze people even more dry. this is not even like something that's comparable to any other gaming company. This is only with Roblox. Roblox is its own platform and offers way less back more to the people than the amount of like the colossal amount of stuff that they constrict on you. So I just want to end off on this. Roblox, they I see why people want to leave. I do. I see why every developer that's on this platform are better off using Unity and just building their own game. Roblox is just an embarrassment of a system to even try to make a living on. They only favor the people that already made something big already. The other people that wants to gain leverage on that and expand the variety, they punish. They punish. And
They
the
they even took
talented
away
developers,
they even took away the because back when they did events where they took some of the smaller and lesser known games and decided to put special things in them in order to grow them, once they took, I had no idea why they took away that because what you were saying, what they did back then was sort of a solution to that, but it was almost temporary because because they all the people who were doing those events just went back to the other games.
yeah. Um, and I'll also let you know this, right? I did my own extensive research on Roblox, and I really went far into seeing how much they earn to how much they give back. And between 2017 and 2019, the company made $1.5 billion. And
What?
you want to hear something funny? Here's the funny part. Here's the funny part. The owner invested $150 million back into the company and kept 1.35 billion to himself. He kept all of the money to himself. And let me
See,
tell you
this is
this.
this is what I don't
If
get about.
Roblox
I almost do nothing like for big company margins, and I almost know absolutely nothing. So I have no idea why. Like I don't know if it's to, have company value or to increase their stock in the company so they invest more into themselves. But I have no idea why on earth they just keep all that money. Like I have zero idea.
you want to hear a simple solution? If Roblox just upgraded their client, upgraded their scripts, and invested a little bit more on globally timed servers that are really good and can handle the best internet connection for why everyone is complaining about the platform of Roblox is mainly internet connection. And they actually lowered their hardware capping boundaries so more people who actually have good computer systems can run the games at their maximum performance, because that's also another
Oh,
thing. Roblox is hardware capped. Like,
okay.
you have to
Just
find a way through.
I wanna branch off on hardware, and this is the very last topic I'm gonna talk about. Roblox One on the Xbox One is one of the worst things I've ever played in my life.
Oh my god.
I cannot fathom every game I've tried either didn't run properly, had severe frame drops, or was just difficult and awkward to control.
And you want to know why?
It was buggy on day one it was released because everyone who had the Xbox One who didn't have a computer for their kids was like, well, heck yeah, this is pretty great. I can just play without having a powerful PC. But once they got their hands on it and they actually played it, it runs slower, and you better just be off just going to an average PC with average settings. Like my my laptop can run a game better and at the same graphical intensity as an Xbox One S, and this isn't the most powerful. This is by graphical and gameplay standards, this is a below average laptop. So I don't know how on earth that a console that can run games like GTA 5 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, like games like that, I don't know how they can run that all this smoothly, but Roblox just fails on that console.
You want to know why? And I'll just tell you why. And that's pretty much going to blow your mind. It's pretty simple. It's because Roblox, they only use 20% of your CPU power and they don't use any of your GPU power. The main components that make an Xbox or PC very strong is the CPU and GPU, and their whole entire client is hardware capped where it does not use any of the powerful components in your computer because they want to cater mainly towards the people who are low end, even though they stupidly didn't realize that low end players can actually play the game better with less hardware capability, and high end players can even make games that are more graphically intense, has a better game engine, and even like grow the base even more if people were actually able to run with their full PC and console specs. And that's why that's why Roblox as a platform is not that popular, and that's why all the talented games that are being made that are slightly graphical, that's why they can't really get anywhere. It's server and it's graphical problems and it's PC the console performance problems. They could easily eliminate all those problems if they just invested, I would say, even 100 million. Even if they can invest so little to how much they made, and they can be up to a AAA title. But no, they're greedy. And that's why I
Yeah,
say they are the most
because
embarrassing company ever.
that's where I've been interesting out a long time because lots of these quote unquote AAA development teams have been like over the years been exposed and just have been doing so many mistakes with their games. And Ringlet says they're not that great of companies after all. Like smaller platforms like Roblox, if they would shy away from being, primarily a kid-friendly website,
No, they're not even a small platform. They're actually they're
they're
the number
small. They're
one
small.
gaming platform.
I'm well I'm saying in this regard, they are smaller than like companies like Bethesda or CD Projekt Red. If they recognize that and they put their money into games that are subject to like teens or adults, like they could get a hole in that market because indie developers today do what AAA developers don't, and I feel like that's the that's the strong category that Roblox has. They have willing and ready developers, but but right now they're the kid friendly base. That's why Adopt Me has like hundreds and thousands of people playing every single day. That's why the Avatar shop has lots of themes that are like are not offensive and all that.
And let me also squeeze in one more thing, and I believe I'm like 100% done with the subject. Roblox right now, and I just pulled it up. They are the third ranking top 10 companies for gaming, and they have 830 employees. They
Wow,
have more than enough. They have the developers. They have everything that they possibly need to make their game a AAA title. They actually have more than needed. They just didn't invest anything. They're underachievers. I even listened to some of Roblox's employees like talk about how their hierarchy structure is more of the employers wanting to keep their jobs and the employees are expendable. They can get removed at any moment for any reason without any warning, and that the company doesn't want to overachieve from talented developers who actually wants to make the platform even better. And that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Like I know most people here are not even going to look too far into it, and that's okay. But the main summary that I figured out through my own research into Roblox was they are a lackluster business that has people who have their own agendas in the company that don't want to make the game platform better, but really just earn a lot of money. And that's really it. and it's crazy. It's pretty much the easiest job to be in because you don't need to do much, and you earn on average $160,000 a year. That is more than six figures. That is definitely or in the six-figure territory, slightly above. Not seven figures, but mainly six. That is crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So that's why I just don't even bother anymore with this platform. Soon enough, I will be moving on from Roblox a lot. But obviously, right now, I'm gonna have my fun in playing Black Magic and
Yeah,
whatnot.
even though even if we move away from Roblox, I still like to see him just playing Black Magic too. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Black Magic is that good game that doesn't get much love, but at the same time, it's just too modern for the platform. Roblox platform is an embarrassment.
all right, everyone, that's going to be in the end of the podcast. I hope you like how quick that escalated. Holy hell! Uh,
Hey, truths. You just need to spill them out.
so I hope everyone like listening to this. Buckle. Thank you for having you on here,
Thank you too. It was an honor.
and I will see everyone in the next episode. And see you later.